Welcome to the Online Success Journey podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey podcast, Patience.
We are back with episode 351, one of the online success journey. Our guest today is a successful entrepreneur who is excited to share the various steps they took to build their business. And you will want to subscribe right now and ensure you'll never miss a journey like this one. Joining us today is Deirdre Tshien, founder and the CEO of Capshaw, author and host of the Grow My Podcast show. Hello, Deirdre.
Hi, thanks for having me here.
Oh, thank you for coming. My audience are excited to hear your story. Just start by telling us one thing we are going to learn from you today that will help us on our journey to success.
Oh gosh, just one. One thing is, I'm very passionate about podcasting, and I'll get more into that when I tell you about my journey. So one thing that a lot of people don't do, which is surprising, is actually promote their podcast. So I am actually really excited to talk about how to promote a podcast and even my journey into figuring all of that out.
Wow, I can't wait to hear more. Let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my audience a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own business?
Yeah, so I've been in entrepreneurship now for almost a decade. And before that, I was in corporate like a lot of us entrepreneurs. I had just graduated actually I did a law degree and I was working in an investment bank. You might be able to tell by my accent, I'm not from the States. I live here now, so I live in New York, but I'm actually originally from Sydney in Australia. So I was working for the biggest investment bank in Australia, and I hit my quarter life crisis. That's what us millennials called it, an experience, a quarter life crisis. And I knew at that time that I didn't want to be in corporate. That's not the path that I wanted to be on. And my then boyfriend, now husband, as well, had hit his quarter life crisis too. He was actually studying medicine and he was miserable. He hated it. And so we were both like, what do we do? What are we going to do? And we just actually moved out together, and he was really enjoying cooking and especially baking, and I love my desserts. So he was spending a lot of time perfecting my favorite desserts. And one night I was just really enjoying this chocolate lava cake he'd made me. And I was like, maybe this is what we could do. Maybe we could create the world's best dessert bar. Why not? And so that's what we did. Our first business was in hospitality. We opened a dessert bar called the Choc Pot, and we grew that to 5 locations in Sydney. And by the way, this is the highlights because it wasn't easy at all. By any stretch of the imagination, we made so many mistakes. We struggled for months and months and months. We were in the red it was not an easy, thing that we did, but we still managed to grow it. We also started a burger restaurant alongside that. We had 2 locations of that. And then a few years into it, so the end of 2018, we found out that our store manager for our busiest store had been stealing from us, and he'd been stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars, like a lot of money. And it took something like that to kind of, snap us out of this, this haze that I guess we were in of, going down this particular path. And it made me realize that this path wasn't actually the one that I wanted to be on. I didn't know what it was, by the way. I just knew that this wasn't it. And I've always wanted to live and work overseas. I've loved traveling. I've always been an explorer. I'm a Sagittarius, so that might not be a surprise for anyone who's into astrology. But I've just always wanted to explore different places. And at the time, I was actually working on another business with another co-founder. It was another business idea with another co-founder. It was in fashion technology. And I was like, well, what better place than for the intersection of fashion and technology than New York City? So we just made the decision. We were just like, okay, well, we still have these stores operating, but we're just going to make it work. So we spent a good 6 months systemizing everything, putting everything in place that we needed to, so that we could make the move over to New York City, which we did mid 2019. And the best part about that is when I spoke to my co-founder, so her name's Bonner, about it, she was super supportive. And in the end, we were like, yeah, we can make it work, all of that. And in the end, I was just like, do you just want to come as well? So I got to move to New York City with, my husband, my cat, and my best friend / co-founder as well. So it's been a whirlwind since we've been here. Mid 2019, we were working this fashion technology business. Basically, we landed, we hit the ground running. So our hypothesis was that our users, our end customers, were going to be college students or young professionals. So we hit Columbia campus, NYU, Wall Street. We just started speaking to women. And after a couple of months of doing that and, going back and forth with them and, really testing our idea, we actually decided that while there was a problem there that we could help solve for, the problem itself wasn't a big enough one that they would easily and quickly change their habits for. So we actually decided to fail that idea. And so here we were in New York City with no real plan. Now, we were like, what do we do? And, everything happens for a reason. I firmly believe that. Because at the same time we were talking to brands and boutiques, I'd actually run into another acquaintance of mine back from Australia. And he had just actually opened a chocolate retail business in New York City. And so between him and these other brands and boutiques that we were talking to, we actually fell into doing agency work for e-commerce, essentially. Now, an agency is not something that we really actually wanted to scale. So we transitioned into coaching. That was actually when I started my first podcast without knowing what it was that I was doing. But ultimately really worked on that. I grew that business to multiple six figures through the power of podcasting as well. And then time and time again, my clients were like, I understand, because I am a huge advocate of storytelling. And they were like, I understand, Deirdre, but I just don't know how. And so that led me to exploring how I could help my clients actually tell their stories in a much more automated, easier way. So that led to actually the first iteration of Capshow. So at the time, that launched as an MVP at the end of last year, but it was quite rudimentary. It was very much, we had a user describe it as the combination of Mad Libs and journaling. So they'd be prompted through some questions. The software would take those answers and then basically create a bank of captions and emails with them. We launched that, and we launched it because we were like, this can help all entrepreneurs. But as you probably know by now, any marketers out there, once you start speaking to everyone, you end up speaking to no one. And we fell into making that mistake ourselves. And so we worked with our coach and we niched down. As you can tell, I love podcasting. It's been a big driver of growth from my business. And so we decided to focus on experts who podcast, which has led to this next iteration of Capshow, which is what we are literally just about to launch in 2 weeks' time. We're launching this iteration of Capshow, it's the world's first AI-powered podcast copywriter. So just from one audio upload, just of an episode, it will create episode title, description, show notes, social media posts, and promotional email for you. That's now what we're doing.
Wow. What a background, Deirdre.
Yeah. Definitely not a straight line, that's for sure.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. But why do you do what you do?
Yeah, I think it really stemmed from, it was really funny. And in September of last year, of 2021, I still had my coaching business, and I was actually at Funnel Hacking Live, which is an event that Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels puts on. And I when I was there and listening to all of the speakers and stuff, I was like feeling really inspired, but there was a part of me that was also feeling really quite, oh, like, I don't know how to say it, like, I guess down, like a little bit unhappy. I didn't really have words to put to it. And the reason why I found out was because on day 4, Tony Robbins spoke, and he was speaking about the patterns of focus that we have in order to find fulfillment or happiness. And that I was like, I kind of like perked up because I was like, that was exactly the mode that I was feeling, that I was in at that time. I was like, I feel a little bit unfulfilled. I feel a little bit unhappy. I just don't know why. I don't know what it is that's causing this. And it was the first thing that he said, and I had this aha moment. He said, one of the patterns of focus in us feeling unhappy is when we are constantly focusing on what's missing rather than what it is that we have. And I was like, this makes so much sense, because I had always been focusing on what was missing, like what I perceived were gaps in myself, in my experience, in my knowledge, in like that I was constantly chasing, and it was burning me out, and I was feeling overwhelmed. And I think in that moment when but what do I have? What I do have is that I am actually this massive introvert, actually, who has still been able to muddle my way towards success. In corporate, I became a senior manager. So I was climbing the corporate ladder. I was able to grow my first 2 brands to multiple 7 figures, my coaching business to multiple 6 figures, and I hate promoting myself. I hate, because I just don't like talking about myself. So, and that's pretty remarkable, right? I was like, I'm this person who I've leaned on these excuses all my life, or all these self-limiting beliefs, and yet I've still been able to achieve levels of success. And so for me, I was like, I know that each and every one of us, we're remarkable in our own way. We all have these remarkable stories that we can tell. And that's why actually what led me to the first iteration of Capshow. That's why I'm so passionate about storytelling and about making that accessible to more people, because I want to help people find their remarkability and to share it. So that's essentially what prompted me down this path, and that's kind of at the core of what it is that I do. So now, even with this iteration of Capshow, podcasters are just natural storytellers. I don't have to convince them that they need to tell their stories. They just do. But what I can help with is, how do we get that story out there? How can we help promote that, get visibility to it? And that's what I'm passionate about.
Let's put man aside. How do you know you are successful?
How do I know that I'm successful? It's funny. I used to always, and to a degree, I still do look at the normal. I say normal, like the standard things of success of, like, am I earning a certain amount, etc. But like more and more, I think as we get older, definitely as I get older, that's not really success anymore, is it? It's really about happiness, and it's about spending time with with more time with, like, my husband, for example, my family, my friends, just feeling free and loving life. Like, every time that I go out and explore New York City, I just feel so grateful that I get to do what I do. I get to be where I am. I get to choose what I'm doing, where I am, who I'm with. That, to me, more and more, is actually what defines success for me.
Tell my audience about the magic moment, the day it suddenly all went right for you.
Oh gosh, it all went right. Probably not all. I'm still working on that. I can tell. In my initial business, when we talk about, like, I mentioned that it wasn't, and it never is an easy path. This entrepreneurship thing is not an easy thing that we're doing. I do remember there were a moment when I felt like we had turned the corner. It was a moment where I felt like we had become an overnight success, even though there's no such thing as an overnight success. Let me just burst that bubble right now. We had been struggling, as I said, I think, like, for months and months and months, because it was our first time in entrepreneurship. We were incredibly naive. We did not know a lot of things. For example, we did not know that to open up a brick and mortar place, it costs a lot of money, right? It kind of makes sense now, but it actually costs a lot of money to fit out a place. So we were already in debt before we opened our doors. We did not know that relying on the strategy of build it and they will come does not work. We did not know that. We were like, we have the best thing since sliced bread. Of course, this is going to work. Of course, we're going to have our doors flooded. We did not even know, once we figured out that, oh, okay, that doesn't work, we didn't know how to turn it on. We didn't know how to make it work. And so we struggled for so long. And I tried a whole host of different things. And then one night, there was this moment. So it was a Friday night, and it was one of the very, very rare nights that my husband and I were able to actually take off together. So we decided to go out. We went to dinner. It was date night. And at the time, because we weren't very busy, we only ever had 2 people working in the store. And we get a call from one of them, and he's just like, I don't have time to go into right now, but you have to come in. We need help. And I'm like, what happened? Like, did we lose power? What actually happened? He's like, I don't have time. Just come in. And I was like, oh my gosh, we were freaking out. We were like, we jump in the car and we're like racing to the store. And I go to drop my husband off at the front because I have to go find parking. And the store was packed. Like, we had a line. It was the first time ever that I'd seen a crowd at the store. And like, I still remember that moment. I still remember how it looked like. And that's why I say it felt like we had become an immediate overnight success, but it was because of the months and months and months of work that we had put in, laying the groundwork almost to actually get it to that point. And that was a very, very clear moment that I remember that it felt like that.
Thank you for sharing. What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
I think definitely, I think definitely perseverance and an ability to also say when enough's enough. Because you can probably tell from my story that there were many moves and changes that we made. We failed our first fashion technology business. We decided to pivot away from agency work. That was just not a business that we wanted to scale. And even now we're moving away from coaching. So we're not afraid to say this isn't what we want to do, but we're also very much about resilience and persevering, right? Like, when we are on the right path, then it's like, let's go all in and let's make this thing work. And I think that's the thing with entrepreneurship. You have to be able to be open to both, be able to open to knowing when something's not quite going right and pivoting or reaching out to a coach or someone who can help you through that, but also putting enough time, effort, money, and honestly, that's just resilience into making it work, into making things happen. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Well, you slightly touched about the mentors. Do you have mentors in your business now?
Oh, always, and multiple. Like, I think I'll never not have one, because the only time when I won't is when I think that I know everything, and I know that I will never know everything. So I will always have mentors, coaches, people in my life who have been there, who have done that, who can look at my business and my situation objectively and be like, okay, this is what you need to do. And they can just help me shortcut all of the mistakes and fears and doubts and everything that I know that I have and that's holding me back.
What is the most valuable thing your mentors and coaches has told you?
Okay, so yeah, the last thing, the last big change that we made in the business was actually a result of my coach. So as I mentioned, when we launched the first iteration of Cap Show, it was, I was like, this can help all entrepreneurs, right? All entrepreneurs. And so we launched it, breaking that, cardinal rule of marketing of, not niching down. And we struggled because we found like our messages were not getting cut through. We were struggling with our content. We were struggling just all across the board. And so again, I reached out to my coach and I was like, I think this is a messaging thing. And he looked at it and was like, it is not a messaging thing. It is an audience. It is a niching down. You need to niche down. And I struggled. I'm going to be honest, like that call went for much longer than I thought that it would, because there were moments in that conversation where I actually put up these immediate blockers, these like, it was very much a fixed mindset rather than a growth mindset. But I am very coachable, and I sort of let go, and I let him coach me through how to figure out my niche and then what to do. And because of that, I can't tell you, patience, like my whole business, my team, like the outlook, like the positivity, everything has changed. Everything, like even our product has changed, as you can see. And it is just so much better. And that's because of one conversation that I had with my coach. And that's the power of coaches and mentors.
What grounds you?
I think, gosh, what grounds me? Definitely, I would have to say my husband, Ash. He's just amazing. He's so supportive. He's seriously the reason why I can make these mistakes. I can make these pivots. I can come up with these businesses and have the freedom to explore them. Like, he's the reason. He's never, as I said, I've had many coaches. I've been a coach myself, and I know that a lot of times, sometimes, our spouses are the ones that can inhibit our growth, inhibit our willingness to invest in ourselves. And my husband has never, in fact, he's always been the opposite. He's just like, yeah, just do it. Do the thing, whatever it is that you want to do, just do it. And I find that a very grounding influence in my life.
What is one thing no one knows about you?
So something very recently is that I have become obsessed with Heartstopper on Netflix. I was just browsing around one day because I was like, well, I need to have my brain decompress a little bit, so I'm just going to put something mindless on, and I've just become. And so Heartstopper was recommended, and I've just become obsessed with it. And the funny thing is, I'm not even an obsessive person. I don't even, anyway. So that's something that I think is a little bit funny about me right now. Something that's happened.
Let's talk about your podcast. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, so it's called Grow My Podcast Show. It's basically for experts who podcast. It's how to grow your audience, because growing your audience is the first step to then growing your leads, your email list, to then obviously getting them into a conversion event or onto a sales call. So that's the whole premise of Grow Our Podcast Show, is sharing my experience, my insights, even my journey. Because, if I'm going to be honest, I don't have it all figured out. So a lot of it is actually sharing just my journey, the things I'm trying to grow my show.
You mentioned earlier that podcasters do not promote their shows. Why do you think is that?
Yeah, it's funny because I fell into this the same thing with my first podcast. A lot of us, I think we start our podcast for different reasons. A lot of times we start it because we want credibility. We want to maybe create some networks. And we spend all this time creating this content. We spend all this time interviewing guests. We spend all this time doing the things. And then we forget that there's actually a lot of effort and time that goes into promoting the thing and promoting it in the right way. I mean, there's some promotion that can happen. We can maybe include it in a newsletter, in an email. We can maybe do some audiograms and put it up on social media. But, there's promotion and there's promotion of it. Like true, I'm going to put all of my, not all, but a good chunk of effort behind actually intentionally and deliberately have this thing grow. And that's not something that I focused on, even myself, when I started my first podcast, until I started speaking to people who were joining my community and who were actually signing up as clients. And when I asked them, how did you find out about me? Or and time again, they were like, well, I came across your podcast, your podcast was recommended to me. And so all roads essentially led back to my podcast. And that was when I realized, I was like, I have to grow this thing. I have to actually promote it. Because what I used to do was I just used to put a post about it in my Facebook group. I used to do a post on Facebook and social media, and that was kind of it. And I used to do audiograms, and that was all I did. And they just weren't working. They were not getting reach. They were not getting engagement. They were not getting visibility. And so I had to think about it differently. And that's kind of what led me actually to one of my core strategies, which is what I call content honey traps. And content honey traps, the whole premise behind it is how do we create content that is so compelling? It creates such a curiosity in people that they have to take the next step. And that next step for me is listen to my podcast episode. And I started doing more and more of that. I started not doing audiograms, and I started actually creating creating content for the specific platform that I was on. So I would have I'd create specific reels for it that was not just an audiogram, and that was not just an audio clip, not even a clip of the audio. I started creating TikToks that were specific to TikTok. I started creating emails specifically to it with content honey traps in it. And that was when my show actually exploded, my first show. And that was when I started seeing more and more people coming into my challenge. I used to run a challenge when I was coaching and converting. That was it. So, that's why I say there's like promotion and then there's like promotion of it. And I think a lot of people don't do the deliberate, intentional promotion to actually grow their podcast show.
Thank you for sharing. And where can we find your podcast, and how can we connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. So you can find my podcasts at growmypodcastshow.com. If you go there, I'll have all the links of all of the podcast players, so you'll be able to find the one that suits you best. And if you want to connect with me, head over to deirdretshien.com. That's DeirdreTshien.com. Or if you just want to find out more about Capshow, if you are a podcaster yourself and you want to get in on this cool AI-powered podcast copywriter, then just head over to capshow.com. That's CAPSHO.com.
Oh, thank you. There will be more from Deirdre in a moment. If you are listening to this on a podcasting platform and you are encouraged by Deirdre's journey, please go to our website at onlinesuccessjourney.com. In addition to the amazing free content, you can work direct with me. Check out my course, Success: How to Set Goals and Double Your Productivity, a course for achieving success in work and life, when you visit onlinesuccessjourney.com. The site has a ton of audio clips from hundreds of successful entrepreneur guests' journeys, all there to help you find the path to your own online success journey. Check it out. That's onlinesuccessjourney.com. Now, Deirdre, I would like for you to share more information with my audience.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Do you watch movies or read books?
Read book.
Tell us, what is your favorite book that has some relevance to being an entrepreneur?
Oh, wow, this is a hard one. Okay, I am a big Russell Brunson fan, so I would have to say any of his like .com Secrets, Expert Secrets, or Traffic Secrets.
If your business was down to its last $100, how would you invest it?
Okay, so let's say it's the business that I'm working on now. What I would probably do is I would invest it in VAs to help me do a lot more organic outreach.
If you are going to keep a note to yourself in your handbag every day, what would be written on it?
It would be to not let anyone dim my light.
Do you feel like you succeeded or like you are only on the way?
On the way, for sure.
Would you ever stop?
I don't think so.
Remind us how we can connect with you.
At growmypodcastshow.com, you can listen to my podcast. I'm on socials as Deirdre Tshien, or you can go to deirdretshien.com or capshow.com.
Deirdre, it's been great to have you here to share your online success journey with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Patience. So much fun.
You are welcome. Remember, success is a journey. Don't wait. Let's start the journey. Patience and Deirdre.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Patience and her guest, and want you to know that there are hundreds of episodes available at onlinesuccessjourney.com. Patience would like to thank you for listening to the podcast, and she has a free gift for you on her website, including an audio compilation of her guests' best tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. Additionally, there are special clips of over 250 episodes that have never aired on the podcast and are only available to members of the Online Success Journey. Check the website and click on Join Now to get free and instant access. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps us each chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed on the favorite platform you have to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the online success journey and listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review the podcast at Apple Podcasts and other sites. We appreciate your help and your willingness to share the journey. One last thing. If you're feeling a bit lost or overwhelmed on your own journey, Patience can help. Check out our coaching sessions on how to set goals and double your productivity while you're at the website. Working with Patience is a great way to get back on the right path. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.